guys, it's Frank from Cruising with Wheels. Ever wonder how a meatball becomes a cookie? Well, we're going to find out because we're going to bring you, for the holidays, our traditional Italian meatball cookies. Today, here on Frank's Cooking Corner. Okay, as you can see, it's all about the preparation. And this is how I like to get started. I pull my recipe out of my book, and then I pull everything I need to my cooking island. Get everything out so you checklist it off the recipe and you don't miss anything. So, now that I have everything out, I'm going to go down the recipe and I'm going to start measuring out all the ingredients so that as I get my cookies together, it'll be right in front of me. Alrighty, let's get going. Alright, now as you can see, I've kind of cleared the table. I've measured everything out. I don't like clutter. I don't like to have bags of flour and sugar and, cocoa powder and the baking sodas and powders and all over the counter. It's very confusing to me. So once I lay everything out, I measure it all out and I put it in individual bowls and measuring cups and containers. So I have everything in front of me and I'm able to just take what I need according to the recipe and make the cookies really fast. So the first thing we have is we have in the favorite cooking pot, I have 1 1/4 cups of butter flavored shortening. And I got those Crisco butter sticks. So there you go. There's your 1 1/4 cup. And the recipe says that you cream your 1 1/2 cup of sugar with your shortening. So there you go. I'm kind of going to break it up with my butter knife. Going to make it easier to cream. It's nice and soft anyways, so that's good. And I have my mixer and we're just going to start pouring it in little at a time. So here we go. And there it is, creamed sugar and butter shortening. Now next on the list is we're going to add our eggs, and it calls for 3 large eggs. And you need to add them one at a time. Now the problem I have is in the refrigerator, I only had 2 large eggs. So a little tip is, I got a great deal on some medium sized eggs at the local grocery store. They had a super coupon for 69 cents. So I'm going to use medium-sized eggs. And the rule is that 1 large egg is equivalent to 2 medium eggs. So since it calls for 3 large, I will be using 2 large and 2 medium. So we're going to add these one at a time and mix it in. Here we go. see, it is nice and light and fluffy and creamy. So that is looking pretty good. So next on the list, it says to add our milk. And we have 1 cup of milk, and we also have to add in our 2 teaspoons of vanilla. So I'm going to do the vanilla first and get the 2 teaspoons added in. Always double check that it is actually the vanilla that I have, because you don't want to grab the wrong one out of your baking cupboard. So there's 1 teaspoon. And there's 2 teaspoons. Put the cap back on. We don't want any spillage. And I'm going to give it a quick zippity-doo-dah and then add in my milk. Incorporated, as you can see. Oh, now remember, don't cry over a little spilt milk. Little joke there. Okay, so there you go. There we have our wet ingredients. Done. Now, time to start putting in the dry ingredients. And we have 5 cups of flour, which I have right here in a large bowl. We have the rest of our dry ingredients, which I have put right here, and it's a combination of 5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 tablespoon of ground cinnamon, 1 tablespoon of ground nutmeg, 1 tablespoon of allspice, and 3/4 cup of Hershey cocoa powder. And I've got it all in this bowl, and I whisked it all together so that it's incorporated and it'll blend better. So we're now going to add the dry ingredients, which is part 2 of this recipe. So here we go. Halfway done. Now, as you saw, I added in all the cocoa powder baking spice mixture first, and I did half the flour because I really wanted to get the chocolate really incorporated. So, oh, it's a nice, oh, look at that, nice thick batter. So all we have left to do is get the rest of this flour in, which we will slowly incorporate. Now, we're probably going to get to a point where the batter is going to get really thick, and I'll probably have to stop using my electric mixer and go to my mixing wooden paddle. So let's kind of finish it up right now. Onto the wooden mixing paddle. Do a little bit at a time. You don't want to overwhelm the batter. Scrape the sides. Try to get really deep into your pan and mix it and turn it and really get it incorporated. It's going to end up being a thick batter. Now that your dough is all mixed together, it's time to add in the meat of the meatball cookies. Yep, that's the walnuts, the raisins, and the chocolate chips. The walnuts, which we have 1.5 cups of chopped walnuts. And then in this bowl, I have 1.5 cups of chocolate chips plus 1 cup of raisins. So that's probably the meat of the meatball cookie. So basically all you have to do now is just get your meat into the dough and mix it up really well. And that's what we're going to do. So let's start with the raisins and the chocolate chips. Dump it all. There you go. Oh boy, look at that. Oh, I love chocolate chips. I love raisins. There are some meatball cookie recipes that don't call for raisins, and that is so wrong. You've got to have the raisins. It's just not right if you don't have them. Now this batter is nice and sticky, so it seems that though it's hard for me to move the batter around, these chocolate chips and raisins are really getting incorporated quickly. So now the last ingredient, and that is, there you go, there are the walnuts. Oh gosh, I cannot wait to eat these. These are one of my favorites. I have many favorites, but this is one of them. And my sister Janine is so excited that I'm making these because she says that my brother-in-law David and her son Bobby, Bobby still lives with them, they don't like the Italian meatball cookies, so she doesn't make them. And she loves them. Well, you know what I say to that? I'd be making a big old batch of cookies just for myself. I mean, there are things that Kevin doesn't like, but I still make it. Kevin doesn't like tuna noodle casserole. I love it. So I make it. And I give a lot of it to my sister Janine because, again, in her house, they don't like it. So too bad for them. I make it anyways. And we enjoy it. Ooh, look at this. Alrighty. I'm going to continue to just keep mixing as best I can so that it's all incorporated. Now that it's all incorporated, we're going to start rolling them up in little meatball-sized balls. I use a 1 tablespoon scooper. So I'm going to be scooping them up and rolling them out, and let's see how much I come up with. Now, I have prepared 3 cookie sheets. I have 4 of them, but 3 I have prepared with parchment paper. I always bake my cookies on parchment paper and put it on the cookie sheet. So we're going to start scooping up our meatball cookies. We're going to get them rolled in our hands for our nice sized meatballs, and we're going to put 12 cookies per cookie sheet. So I guess we'll get to see at the end of this recipe how many meatball cookies this recipe makes. So here we go. Let's get started with the scooping and the rolling. You roll them, and then it makes a nice size little meatball. And that's pretty much the size of the cookies that I make in most of my recipes. It's a good, I'm going to say, 1.5 inches maybe. Good 1.5 inches. And so we're going to put 12 on a sheet. Here's one. And once you get into it, you get a routine. See, same size, 1.5 inches. and you get a feel for how much you're scooping. You know, it's always hard in the beginning. Remember, startup is always hard to figure out if you're scooping the same amount. And I am. So I am good to go on this. So we're going to continue to keep scooping, and we're just going to keep scooping and rolling and filling up these cookie sheets, and then we're going to get them in the oven. Well, there we go. So I've been sitting here on the island, and I have just been scooping and rolling my meatball cookies by hand, and I got all that done and out of the way. So as you can see, I have 3 cookie sheets prepped and ready to go into the oven. The oven has already been preheated to 350 degrees, and the recipe says that they should be in there for about 13 to 15 minutes. But again, you know, those of you that cook and bake, ovens are all different. So you're going to have to monitor them, and that's what I do. I perch myself on my cooking stool and I sit by the oven, and I just keep watching over that timer to see whether they're done or not. So we're going to start getting them into the oven, 1 cookie sheet at a time. A lot of meatball cookies here. This batch made 7.5 dozen. Now that's a lot of Italian meatball cookies. So, and when they're done cooking, they're going to cool, and I have saved my 4th cookie sheet so that I can move them over to that to cool, and then we're going to make the icing that goes on top of them. So let's get baking. Well, there you have it. We have the first dozen Italian meatball cookies out of the oven. They took exactly 15 minutes. And we have the next one just ready to go in. So our assembly line is right where it should be. So lots of baking. We're going to keep on going, and then when they're done and they're cooled, we're going to ice them all up. Now that they're all baked and cooled, it's time to make the icing. So I have my ingredients out here according to the recipe I have, which we have some powdered sugar, milk, Hershey's cocoa powder, and some vanilla. Now I'm kind of debating whether I should put a little anise in it. And anise, if you want to get, it's right here, it's a little bottle. Anise extract. And it's kind of a licorice flavor. So I'm debating whether I'm going to do that or not. Some people like it and some people don't. So I'm going to start the measuring process, get it in the bowl, and whisk up a batch of icing so that I can glaze these little puppies, and we're done for the day. So I'll get back to you on what I decide. See you soon. I made 2 kinds of icing. One batch was a chocolate icing. The other half I did a clear icing with anise in it. Anise is black licorice flavoring. Some people love it like I do, and some people don't like it like Kevin, which is why I made half and half. You mix your icing, it's very simple, you follow the recipe, and then I just get a spoon and I dribble a little on and I circle it around so it's all covered. And I try to add some sprinkles to make it look festive for the holidays. Once that's done, you let it harden, and then it's time to start eating. Well, people, and there you have it. What I decided to do when I iced my meatball cookies was I did chocolate icing on one half of them and anise spiced icing on the other half. And I did a little sprinkle with some green holiday sprinkles and some red holiday sprinkles. So there you have it. Italian meatball cookies are done for the season. Ooh, I better freeze some of these before Kevin gets his hands on all of them. Thanks for joining me today in Frank's Cooking Corner to help me make my Italian meatball cookies. I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. I'll see you next time for another episode. What will we be making next?